Hey, hello everyone, and welcome to OneTake, a 15-minute interview series with InsurTech executives brought to you by InsurTech Denver. This is a unique series that there are no edits and no do-overs. I'm Marc Wheeler, co-founder of InsurTech Denver, and with us today is a special guest, Tim Attia, co-founder and CEO of Slice. Tim, thank you for joining us today. And we really appreciate your time. I know you have a busy schedule, so we really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Listen, let's just jump right in. We have a few questions for you today to just help folks understand about the company and the things that you're involved with. So I know that Slice was launched in 2015. Tell us about the company, the services you provide, and the customers you work with.
Sure. So yeah, we're a product of our trajectory. So Stuart and I, my co-founder, and a lot of people I work with, we worked together for probably over 20 years, but we started by building, when we ended up in the insurance industry, we started by building core systems, policy claims and billing systems for carriers. Did that for about 15 years, and then we crossed over to the dark side, became online agents. About 6-7 years, one of the first direct consumer small commercial.
Yeah.
And learned a lot. So we learned a lot along the way about insurance companies, technology, about about the business. And so with Slice, what we were trying to do is, with the move towards customer engagement and more view around the customer and less emphasis on, internal processes, quote bind issue, we're big believers in on-demand, and we felt that insurance needed to join this on-demand world. You tap on a button and the car shows up. We didn't think insurance could no longer be, tap on the button, go to a website, call a call center, wait 2 weeks for paper. Insurance needed to come into that world. And we said on-demand insurance for the on-demand economy when we started. And there's two sides to that. Insurance needs to be on-demand. It needs to be like Spotify. But we also wanted to focus initially on the on-demand market. Actually, I think our second state was Colorado. So we remember right after we launched in Ohio, we launched in Colorado. We had remember it was a snowy day, and we had a meetup of Airbnb superhosts and bought beers for them and signed them up on an iPad. And, so but that was the view, right? Can we bring insurance into this new world? So, we're a B2B2C company. We've never been really a B2C kind of company. So our platform, which has just gotten over the years more deeper and deeper into the DNA, allows either a traditional insurance organization or a new entrant to launch new on-demand insurance products, that perform better in the sense that there's a less expense because it operates digitally. We believe because it's primarily driven by algorithms, data and AI, that it'll perform better in terms of better loss ratios and things like that. And of course, better customer engagement.
Sure. And when you think about that, how would you describe your customers? I mean, who are you targeting to take in support with the services you provide?
Yeah, anybody who is a business, we're B2B2C, who wants to put out these new products that are really, and these products are starting to take hold now. These products that are primarily customer centric and driven by, data and AI and ML, right? So those types of products, I mean, we spent in the insurance industry, my career, 20 years automating internal processes. This isn't about that. This is about how do we adapt this to this new customer reality. And so it's whoever wants to do that, whether it's an incumbent insurer or a large MGA or a new entrant that wants to include insurance in their offering. That's who we would work with, and that could be distributed to a customer primarily through, it could be an internal agency in a company, or it could be an agent, but ultimately it goes directly to the consumer, but we work through somebody.
Terrific. That's really helpful. Thank you for that. Now, I know that you're really active in the InsurTech community, and you recently presented at a Morgan Stanley conference and the other conferences that you take and participate in. How has InsurTech evolved since you entered the industry?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. When we started Slice, actually, day one was October 1, 2015. We did our seed round, I think, March 2016. But that was 2 months before think it was December 2015, that there was this big debate of whether hashtag InsurTech would have one E or two E's in it, right? So obviously we've been thinking about that prior to our launch date. So we didn't know the InsurTech wave was coming. We're happy it came. We're happy we got to ride it. We certainly thought that change was necessary and change was going to happen, but we didn't come in knowing that there was going to be this wave. And I think how it's evolved, and it's, you have to pay homage to the gods of luck and timing, is that there's been enough mass and momentum that 5.5 years in, that we're actually starting to see results. And I think that's quick, because I lived through watching auto go online, right? So in the dot-com wave, there was a company that came out with the first online auto policy purchased online. I can't remember the name of the company. I don't even think they survived, actually. But it fundamentally changed everything. Back then, the phone screen was this big and internet was crappy, and while cell phones was it wasn't a great experience, but it fundamentally changed the business model. And if you go forward now 16 or 18 years, it's had an impact, right? Some of the players that were number one or number two or number 4 or 5 now, and the Geicos at Progressive are moving up quickly. It fundamentally shifted things, but it took 18 years for that shift to happen. We're seeing this shift happen in much shorter time, and I wouldn't have bet at it. This year, I think, is one of the first years, last year, this year, that I truly see the shift happening. So that means in 6 years, 7 years, that's quicker than I've seen in the past. For a change that's made, a fundamental change that made to actually show impact, I think it's starting to show impact. So
Yeah, go ahead, please.
That's what we're starting to see. That's what I'm starting to see. Yeah.
No, that's terrific. Well, thank you for that insight. I mean, there has been this rapid, and accelerated change, over the past, couple of years. And I think with the new players coming on board, they're understanding the industry a little bit better. You have the incumbents that are out there that are actively involved as well. So it's been a great industry to be in. I can tell you that.
Absolutely.
Now, one of the other things,
better for the consumer, right? Better for the consumer, right?
It is better for the consumer, and the consumer is embracing it in a new way too. And, you can go as fast as a consumer is willing to adopt. And as they've gotten more and more involved with, online purchasing and, to the credit to Amazon and all of that, I think insurance is right there, a part of it. And they've really raised the standard too, I think, for us in the industry and how we engage with them.
Yeah. And what's happened is this InsurTech word has grown to include a lot of things, insurance and technology. But I think that if you boil it down to this new customer experience, it's starting to take hold. This is the first time that in the first year or a couple of years, year and a half, I'm starting to see sort of real movement, real premium moving that area. Whether it's an agent or a consumer, everybody's drawn to this, improved customer journey, I think.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Well, I know that we, for the most part, our conversations talked about, what's happening in the US, but I know that you're involved more on a global perspective. Can you share with us what you see emerging on the global scene for insurance as well?
Sure. When we started, the reason we ended up being global is when we started, we focused on the on-demand economy, and we wanted to be scalable and flexible. We're platform, we're technologists, so our background is engineering. So you always try to, how can I create something that's going to scale by multiple products in multiple jurisdictions? And let's say there's a platform like Airbnb and it's in 191 countries. We'd sit there and go, well, how do you get to 191 countries with insurance in 18 months, let's say? And the challenge with that is, if you're going to do like pure insurance as a carrier, it could take you 380 years to get to 191 countries. Even the largest carrier is probably not 191 countries. So, we tried to create a platform that we thought could be and a model that we thought could be scalable and flexible. And so we went out right away with sort of a global reach, only because our customers were pulling us there. They were all over the place. And so I think the big shift that we're seeing right now, and a lot of it is driven by COVID. So as soon as COVID hit a year ago, New York, I live in Toronto, New York became equidistant to Melbourne or Sao Paulo. They were the same distance away. And all of a sudden you didn't have to be there to work there. So
Right.
people were much more open to our virtual hackathons and, let's work remotely and let's put it out remotely. And it forced everybody to work in a more, remote digital fashion with newer tools. And so all of a sudden we're doing work in Australia, which before we were like, well, we're not really going to go to Australia. We're doing work we picked up some work in Europe that we weren't doing before, and some work in Brazil. So I think that's what we're seeing. But in general, if you're looking at, what we're trying to do in terms of on-demand or digital insurance, Europe and US is where most of the premium is, right? That's
Yep.
most of the businesses, but most of it's buried in the ground in cables, right? So it's not digital, right? It's most of it is cables in the ground. And in Southeast Asia, they didn't have cables in the ground, so everybody was using cell phones and satellites. So everything is sort of digital first, through a super app or a platform. So much, easier acceptance, less change in some of these more, I call it emerging markets, but some of them are very big, like Southeast Asia. So we see that kind of shift as we go to place, and it's not just a regulatory difference. It is really a fundamental infrastructure difference as you go place to place. And then the other part of it is just some places are easier to do business, and some people, there's more mature. US is a very mature market to do business in, right? Some of them are not as mature, but we're being pulled everywhere right now, primarily because of COVID. Because COVID, all of a sudden, before it was like, I'm not going to work with you unless you have an office down the street, and now it's I won't even go to your office down the street. So yeah, so that's changed the landscape, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very true. Well, I do some work with an organization called Africa Rising that looks at the InsurTech industry on the continent of Africa. And, I have to smile a little bit because, we talk about, mobile first, right?
Yeah.
And in Africa, it's mobile only.
Yes.
The way that they think about it and how they engage with customers.
Sure.
So, it's just a shift, and you learn from all of these countries and what they're trying to do, from an insurance perspective.
You don't have the infrastructure. In some sense, you can start with a clean slate, right? Change is really difficult, right? And it's not a technology thing; it's a people thing. And so, yeah, some areas that are more emerging have an opportunity to adopt this quicker. The flip side of that is, if you're a company like Slice and you're in your 6 years, it's about, obviously revenues and profits, and therefore you're looking for more mature markets where there's more premium. So there's that trade-off, right? So if
There is.
Yeah,
very, very true. Now, as a founder, CEO, how do you take and define your role in the company, and how has it evolved over time?
sure. No, absolutely. I mean, early days, you're doing everything because there's like 3 people in the company. So you're even though, I was in our New York City office. We're not in yet last week, and I picked up the mail. So there you go. So I still pick up the mail.
Yep.
But I think the fundamental shift is we're no longer co-founders and startup execs. And I think maybe there's positives and negative sides of things like COVID. They sort of accelerate some things, and when there's stress, then it forces you to adapt quicker. But I think we're now operators. We're no longer the co-founder part falls off, and the CEO part becomes more important. You're an operator now. It's not about some mystical ability to find something and 4 steps to the epiphany and all this stuff. It's about how well are you running your business, how well are you taking care of your people, how well are you fitting into society and taking care of having purpose. And it's sort of no different than the CEO of an agency or an insurance. You're operating, and it's about operating. It's not about some romantic view of starting up companies and anymore. I think it's now down to what are your skills as an operator.
Sure. Well, let me ask you a question to follow up on that. You're the operating side of it, and yet, there's a visionary portion of it, right? Looking beyond that horizon, where you need to take the business next, or where the industry is going next, or where the consumers are at. So how do you balance that visionary aspect of it with the operating side?
It's a tough one. It's probably easier for us than a company that's been around 200 years or something.
Sure.
but it's a tough one. It is a balancing act. I think we're getting together this week for a bit of a planning, and I always try to challenge everybody to always be kind of sense making. We don't want to be in end up in an echo chamber, right? So how do we always reach out and get other people's ideas and get other people's opinions and share ideas and opinions? They're all as valuable as, well, I need to deliver this project and make sure that I deliver it within the right margins and the right quality. I think that it's almost as important to make sure that you're sort of sense making, and you're trying to push the envelope and see what's out there, and we're always trying to make it to that vision, and hopefully that vision holds, because you don't want to be chasing something that's there's a fine line between a vision and a hallucination, and you don't want to be chasing a hallucination, right? So
Right.
so you're always trying to confirm, but I would say that slices have been around 5.5 years, but we're on a 20-year journey, right? We're a product of what got us here, and we're always adjusting. But it's from the first time I walked in and somebody showed me an ISO form and COBOL assembler system, the vision has always been there on how to change that. So yeah, I think it's a really important part like, for example, the meeting that we're having this week, we were preparing for it, and people were like, well, when we get together, let's also talk about some of our existing customer thing, and let's talk about this. And I said, no. Maybe if we have time at the end, but we were really going to sit back and say, how do we reach out? Because we did this last year. We reached out with these virtual hackathons. We said, okay, we know you're in your basement. It's a great time to sort of ideate on potential scenarios in the future, and what best way to test these scenarios through something that's tangible, like a virtual hackathon. And really what we're trying to do is paint ourselves into multiple possible futures, and how do we see how we fit in, right? So it is a tough one. It's easier for us after 5 years. One of the ones is, how are we going to maintain that? Because once you have 100 years of history, how are you going to maintain this capability to always try to reinvent yourself and think about the next thing? I think that's a tough one, but I think a key one is to try and always interpret and hypothesize and do scenarios about what you see in front of you, and try and paint yourselves into those scenarios. It's an interesting exercise, because it's an exercise in predicting the future. And we're big believers in algorithms, and we're big believers in algorithms can predict the future. And it's interesting, trying to predict the future is fun stuff, right? And it's probabilistic. When I was in school, I loved probability, and I believe we live in a probabilistic world. So every outcome is possible. How do you paint yourselves in those? How do you make sure that in every one of those situations you're going to add value? And yeah, I think so. So it is an important part of my role, but I think it's an important part of everybody's role. We try to encourage people. I was thinking maybe a good idea to have a shadow board of the youngest people in our company, and have them report to them as we would a board, right? Because they would have a whole different set of insights that just generationally we're going to miss, right?
Right. Yeah. Right. Oh, that's really interesting. It's an interesting approach. Well, to build off of that, I mean, what is on the horizon for Slice, say through the end of the year or into 2022?
I think we'll continue to build on. We started with this view of on-demand insurance for an on-demand economy, and we sort of shifted to an on-demand insurance for an on-demand world. So that's taking on-demand insurance is sort of these table stakes, right? Insurance needs to be on demand, and we start in a niche, which is the on-demand economy. So we start with ride share, home share, and cyber. But ride share is really an auto product. Home share is really a homeowner's product. Cyber is really a small business product. So how do we then expand that vision into the more mainstream lines, right? So I think that's what we're trying to prove out now. And so a couple of different things. One is to make sure that we can get to on-demand, division of on-demand insurance. So that's always a struggle, because you know, you could say for X amount of dollars, I'm willing to compromise and go left. But then you're going to move away from it, right? And so that's one side of it. So I think what you'll see this year is where we've been working on and putting out, we already put out a couple of more traditional small business products. We're going to be putting out some more, we're working on some auto products also in Europe that are more, remember, more on demand, more meeting the vision, but more standard kind of auto products. We got brought into, actually there's a case study was just released by Amazon on it. So it's public now. I think Emily will be putting it out there, where Amazon brought us into, AWS brought us into a project they'd been working on with a large insurer that really brings the vision together, because it's more of a dynamic insurance, and it's got, you know, multiple lines, you know, healthcare and personal and travel all mixed into one, and contextual. And so I think this is, I think what you're going to see for Slices here is us getting closer to our vision. I think we've been circling inside for us. Inside we see all these, we can hold conflicting ideas in our head because we see where we're going. From the outside, it might just look like conflicting ideas. I think this year we're going to see them come together, and people hopefully will say, okay, now I get it. Now I get what they're trying to do. So I think it's more of that. But the most important one is premium on the platform. I think we're finally going to see, you know, meaningful amount of premium coming on the platform. And that's a challenge, a real challenge for any startup. I'm not talking about InsurTech. If you were starting a new MGA 5 years ago or 10 years ago, or a new insurance company 10 years ago, growing premiums really hard in insurance, right? It's just, you know, the incumbents hold on to it. It's very expensive to acquire customers. It's, you know, distribution networks are established. But I think that's, you know, for us, that's what we're going to do. We're going to try and get closer to our vision of on-demand insurance from on-demand world. You know, we want to sort of get closer to that vision this year.
Well, that's terrific. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. I want to shift gears a little bit and go into the little fun part as we wrap up here. So I'm going to send out to you some rapid fire questions. And the first thing that comes in your head, give me an answer. All right, here we go. You ready?
Sure.
All right. Skittles versus Reese's Pieces.
Oh, Reese's Pieces.
All right. First big vacation spot post-COVID.
Oh, I want to get back to Tokyo, Japan.
That may be a while.
I know.
Well, building on that, your favorite Summer Olympic sport?
Oh, I would say cycling.
All right, very good. Well, we saw Tour de France ended today or yesterday, I think it was. So that was exciting.
Yeah.
Two-time winner.
Yeah.
Favorite restaurant?
Wow. Favorite restaurant, I would say, well, that one's not coming fast. I'd say the Pearl, which is sort of a Hong Kong type restaurant in Toronto, the Pearl, where I live. Yeah.
And where is that located?
It's located in, they have a couple different ones. One down in Harbourfront on the water in Toronto. Okay. The other one is in Bayview Village, but it's just great dim sum or great Hong Kong top style Chinese at the end of the day. Just fantastic.
Oh, that sounds great. Well, thanks for sharing that tip. Here we go. Coffee versus tea?
Coffee.
All right. Jazz, classical, or rock music?
Oh, I'm going to go with rock. Yeah.
So they're saying ready, aim, fire, or ready, fire, aim?
Ready, fire, aim.
All right. Detailed or abstract?
Abstract.
All right. Call or text?
Sorry, say again?
Call or text?
So a call or text? Oh,
yes.
Text.
Sorry.
It's okay. All
right. Do you, when you were growing up, did you color in the lines or outside of the lines?
Oh, definitely outside the lines. Still can't get stuff inside the line, unfortunately.
All right. There you go. That's good though. Detailed or abstract?
Abstract.
All right. Sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise. Yeah.
Drums or guitar?
Guitar.
All right. Stripes or solids?
Got one right here. So.
All right, there we go. There it is.
So go ahead.
And then the final one was stripes or solids?
Stripes.
All right, there we go. Well, that's a wrap. Well, thank you so much for your time and for your insights today and sharing with us, more about Slice and who you are and your perspective on the industry. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark. That was interesting. That was fantastic. Thank you.
You got it. Thank you.